Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If this is the first time you've seen my channel, yay, finally, you're here. I've been waiting for you. And if you're a returning subscriber, yay, welcome back. As you already know, my goal is to save you time and money by giving you the inside scoop on filmmaking content and quality, so you can decide whether or not you want to spend time or money or both watching a particular film. So today, the movie I'm reviewing is called Fly Me to the Moon. This family-friendly movie is about the race to the moon, and it premieres in theaters on July 12th, 2024. The movie is rated PG-13, and I'm going to give you some tips for parents here in just a few minutes. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes long, which is a really long movie, but I felt it flew by, pun intended. Anyway, the overall movie review mom grade I'm giving it is an A. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you will too. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked, things I didn't like. I'll offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like. But before we dive into all of that, I wanted to give you a featured product for today. You can find it on Amazon by clicking on the link below. It is with the full cooperation of NASA. It's a series that tells the complete story of the Apollo missions, not just Apollo 11, which is featured in this film. Anyway, it's a documentary series, and I thought you might be interested, especially if you're interested in Apollo and the moon and space and NASA and all of that. So click on that link down below. All right, so in a nutshell, the story is about marketing maven Kelly Jones, who wreaks havoc on Apollo 11's launch director's already difficult task of landing on the moon in 1969. When the White House deems the mission too important to fail, the countdown between fact and fiction truly begins. The fun flick was directed by George Berlanti. Writing credits go to Keenan Flynn, Rose Gilroy, and Bill Kirstein. Already, the movie has been nominated for Best Comedy and Best Romance by the Golden Trailer Awards. The movie takes true history and massages it into a very fun romantic comedy with a lot of heart, sprinkled with some history and some conspiracy. I really liked it, and I've been surprised at how low some of the other film critics have rated it. Then again, I think a lot of people are not surprised that what they like is very different from what film critics like. But in this case, I really did like this one, and I think audiences will too. So quick tips for parents. I think young kids are going to be bored because it's mostly adults talking. Teens might get a kick out of it if they can stay off their cell phones for more than a minute and they're interested in either the leading stars, because there's eye candy for everybody, or they're interested in NASA and space launches and going to the moon and all of that. A public affair lady lies and twists the truth in her marketing efforts. So if you watch this with your family, talk about that. Talk about integrity and honesty and what is acceptable and what is not, especially in marketing, which is a little tricky. Also, some tips for parents are that there is some profanity, some smoking, alcohol use, and dishonesty, as I mentioned. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are the moon landing, of course, in history, public relations, honesty, promises, and the space race, which really boiled down to America versus Russia. Which country was better? So on to the list of things that I really liked about this film. First of all, the cast is fantastic and includes Scarlett Johansson as the leading lady, Channing Tatum as the leading man, Woody Harrelson, Ray Romano, Jim Rash, and even a fun cameo from SNL's news anchor, Colin Jost. That kind of surprised me. Scarlett Johansson has always been beautiful to look at, but she has become a truly fine actress. She gives an outstanding performance and really is the heart of this movie. She also worked as one of the producers on the film. I thought that she just knocked it out of the park, really. I love the line on the movie poster that asks, "Will they make it or fake it?" The film definitely takes advantage of an old conspiracy theory about faking the moon landing by offering it some legitimacy and making it fun and clever while doing so. We get to go to NASA in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And my husband and I actually went there on a tour a number of years ago for the general public, not anything private. But we left very impressed. Everything is bigger than life. So how could we not leave but impressed, right? I love the little details and the research that went into this film. For example, they show a party at NASA and we see popular food laid out on the table, such as pigs in a blanket, jello in their molds, and other dishes from the 1960s. The clothing is fantastic. The costume designs are by Mary Zophers, and it really takes you back to the 1960s. We also get to see some clips of real footage from the Apollo 11 launch, which is just amazing. There's a black cat in the movie that plays a bigger role than you think that it probably would when you first see it. Cats have been showing up a lot in movies lately, like, of course, the Garfield movie, but A Quiet Place Day One that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and Argyle, which was a lot of fun, especially the little backpack that they carried this cat in was just hilarious. Despite the long length of the movie, the time really did fly by, and I didn't even look at the clock once. I really enjoyed this film, and that's saying a lot because it's a long movie. Now, I could see some scenes that could have been edited out to tighten it up, but I still enjoyed what was presented. Fun fact, the movie was originally going to go straight to streaming, but after testing it with audiences who loved it, it was decided to launch with a theater premiere. So good choice, because any movie about going to the moon really should be seen on one of the biggest screens possible, right? The humor is smart and it doesn't talk down to the audience. Overall, I think the movie has something for everyone, except for maybe the young children. On to the list of things I didn't like. Well, this is a very short list, as you would imagine, because I gave it such a high score. But you know that there are going to be people who watch this movie who believe that it's 100% true, that it's factual. Now, parts of it are, but if you don't watch the trailer, which I had not seen, and you don't really know that much about it, you just are wanting to see Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, maybe, you might think, oh, I didn't know this about the true story. And then we don't really get to see the talented Ray Romano do much. He has a very small role, really as a side character, which is a shame because he has turned into a really great actor as well. All right, so let me share some funny lines and interesting lines with you. I don't want this to be a 20-minute movie review, so you can see all of them on my moviereviewmom.com website, but I will share some of them with you right now. So for example, about that black cat, Ruby is played by Anna Garcia, and she's the assistant to Kelly Jones, who's played by Scarlett Johansson. And so they see this black cat run by and they both go, oh. In fact, it's funny because every time anybody sees a black cat in this movie, everybody's all, oh, because when I grew up, everybody was frightened of them. And now I have found out my family fostered kittens and we had black ones, and the black ones always had the best personalities. And somebody said, well, it's because they know that they're black cats and people are afraid of them. I don't know about that. But anyway, so Ruby sees this black cat and she says, oh, and then Scarlett Johansson's character's like, oh, calm down. And she says, well, you know what they say about black cats, which is the general saying is, you're going to have bad luck. But Scarlett Johansson, instead of saying that, she says, if they cross your path, they're probably going somewhere else. And I thought that was a really good line and kind of funny too. And then Ray Romano is watching Scarlett Johansson work her marketing magic. And, she's talking to another person, trying to get them to put money into NASA. And so Ray Romano says, she teared up, man. That's scary, because she was able to be a chameleon and have a Southern accent if that's what it took to make the deal, or cry on demand, or, things like that. It's pretty funny. And she is pretty skilled at it. Now, Jim Rash is in the movie and he plays this over the top flamboyant film director. He's hilarious and awesome every time he's on screen. And so he gathers some people together, that were going to be doing certain tasks. And he points to this one guy and he says, I'll call you Joseph, so you can't take anything personally. And I thought that was really funny and actually kind of a good idea. Now, the time period is set, obviously in the 1960s. President Nixon is the president, and there were quite a few liberals who expressed disdain for President Nixon. And so, again, Ruby, the assistant, she's like, oh, I don't want to work for President Nixon. Actually, she never calls him president. She calls him Richard Nixon, which of course is his name. But when he holds the office, you're supposed to say president. But anyway, and so after everything is said and done, she says, this is what happens when you work for Richard Nixon. And I just thought that was kind of funny. And I don't know if everybody hated him. Obviously, they didn't, because he was voted as president. But in the movie, probably written by liberals, they definitely inject that, anti-conservative agenda in the film. And then I have to say a word about Woody Harrelson. He plays this guy who's representing the interests of the White House. And sometimes he admits the president doesn't even know what he's doing, but it's for his good. Anyway, and so at one point he says to Scarlett Johansson's character, they have kind of a love-hate relationship. He says, if you ever need me, just holler. I'll probably be listening. And that one made me laugh. And then I wrote down a ton of really interesting, often insightful and profound lines that really speak to the theme of the movies. And so one is Scarlett Johansson, and she's talking about how she grew up and how different rough situations kind of turned her into the cynical marketing genius that she is. And she says, we all learn how to survive. Plus, we all have our share of tough breaks, which is true. But, and you feel for her character. But I really loved Channing Tatum's reply. He says, I just don't think that our sad stories are supposed to teach us how to survive in the world. I think they're supposed to make us want to change it. And I loved that take, that spin on, just feeling sorry and it making excuses for why you're a victim and that kind of thing. Now, throughout all of this, Scarlett Johansson has all kinds of shenanigans, and she's trying to do her job as public relations, doing marketing and getting money to pour into NASA so that this Apollo 11 can actually take place. It can go into the moon and break records and, change the history of the world and the universe and all of that. And so she's very manipulative in her efforts. And at one point, Channing Tatum's character says to her, for the record, you can win people over just by being who you are. And I thought that was a really good point to show some balance. Not everybody bought into everything that she was dishing out. And then I love this news announcement. The day that Apollo 11 is to launch, you hear a news announcer saying, yesterday was science fiction, today is fact. And you really get a sense of the awesomeness that it was to fly to the moon and back. It's just amazing. Another really touching line is when Scarlett Johansson says, I learned what it was like to be a part of something real, because she was faking so many things. And she was in awe of being a part of something real. And honestly, I think all of us want to be a part of something big and something real in our lives, right? So while I was watching this film, I instantly thought of 3 films that I wanted to recommend that you watch. The first one is, of course, the movie Apollo 11. Now, it is a feature film, but it is fact. It's not just fiction. Now, I suppose a few things in the movie are, added for Hollywood benefit, but it's a really well done film. And all of these movies are about Apollo 11. The second one is called Operation Avalanche, and you're going to learn some of the things that went on behind the Apollo 11 launch. And the last one is called Capricorn 1. So there are always conspiracy theories that sort of circle around these big events like landing of the moon and that kind of stuff. Anyway, I think that you'll be really interested and intrigued, especially if you like NASA and all of that. All right, that's it. Have a fantastic day. When you get a minute, visit me on social media. I'm all over the place, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.